Hi everyone, it's Laura here for SugarPea Designs, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how to create a Valentine's Day card using the Love Machine stamp set. To start off, I die cut some pink cardstock to an A2 size using the Card Front Element Builder dies. The rectangle die will also add a nice stitched detail all around. And then I die cut some white cardstock using the Dango Hearts cover plate die. And I also die cut two more panels because I'm going to use them to create some dimension. Next, I took one of those die cuts and I turned my white cardstock into glitter cardstock by doing some heat embossing with hologram sparkle embossing powder. So I first coated the entire panel with embossing ink, I covered it with my glitter embossing powder, and then I melted the embossing powder with my heat gun. I went ahead and I added a second layer for even more sparkle, and I have to warn you, some of the glitter did transfer to my ink pad. This is not something that I mind, but I thought you might want to know. I added my second layer of embossing powder and I heat set that too, and then off camera I even added a third one for even more sparkle. To create some dimension, I layered my glitter cardstock panel with the other two white die cuts that I had obtained before. And this is a very easy way to create dimension on your cards without having to use foam tape when you are dealing with die cuts like this one with fine details. In this case I used 3 layers, but you can use even more or add just 2 depending on how much dimension you want to create on your panels. The next step was to adhere these layers on my pink card base, and once that was done I could move on and start working on my images. I used images from the Love Machine stamp set, which, like most of the products that I'm using for today's card, are part of the latest release by SugarPea Designs. The stamp set, like all the release, is absolutely adorable, and you will have a link to the products that I used today in the description box down below if you're interested. For my stamping I used some alcohol-proof ink, and for my coloring I used Copic markers. I'm using a very limited palette and adding just some color accents to the robots in shades of pink and teal blues for the boy robot. And then I'm going to color the rest of their bodies using some cool gray markers. With my cool gray markers, the way I'm adding my shading is by leaving a little bit of a white border when adding my darkest marker. This is just a different style of coloring and I think it adds some more character to your colored images. I have been experimenting with it lately and I really love the look, and today I decided to feature it on my coloring. For the pink areas on this little robot girl, I used RV23, RV21 and R20, and my cool gray markers are C5, C3 and C1. As you can see, I'm going in with a couple of layers to intensify the contrast and have those shadows be nice and dark so that the images look even more dimensional. And because this card is fairly simple and quick to put together, the coloring is less sped up for today. You will also notice that little doggy there in the center. I stamped it, but then I decided that I wasn't going to use it on today's card because I wanted to keep the design pretty simple, but you can see it's really cute and I will definitely be using it in a future card. The way I added my shadows for today is as if the light was coming from the center so that the shading on the girl and on the boy are opposite. So the darker areas for her are on the left portion of her body, whereas for him we have the shadows on the right portion of the body. And this is because in the final design I will have the images on the sides of my card front and I will have the sentiment in the center, and this type of shading will help the eye of the viewers go towards the center of the card where I will have my greeting. Also for the robot boy, I'm leaving a little bit of a border when I go in with my darkest marker to create this nice and interesting effect. And then I'm going to use some teal markers to add some color accents to this image as well. I used BG13, BG32 and BG11, and then for the heart I'm going to use again those pink color combination that I used on the girl. And just to remind you, that is RV23, RV21 and R20. Once I was done coloring the images, I used the coordinating dies to die cut them out. I'm securing them to my paper with some low-tack tape, and then I can run everything through my die cutting machine. As I was die cutting, I also used one more die from the latest release. This is the Simple Heart die, and I used that to die cut some pink cardstock that I will use for my sentiment. I heat embossed the sentiment with wet embossing powder in the center of this pink heart die cut, and I adhered that to the center of my design. For some extra dimension, I also raised the robots on some foam tape, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to adhere the girl to the left side of my design and the boy to the right side of my design, with that big heart with the sentiment in the middle of the two. I added some highlights with a white gel pen, and that finished off my card. And that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I inspired you to create with the December 2019 release by SugarPea Designs. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more card making and paper crafting inspiration. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and have a great day.